Look, when you look at the most expensive Air Jordans ever sold, you'll notice a few things. The top 10 is littered with Air Jordan 1s, whether it's a pair he wore from his rookie season or the one he wore when he shattered a backboard in an exhibition game in Italy. The Air Jordan 1 remains in the eyes of sneakerheads, MJ fans, and collectors with a lot of money to burn, the canonical MJ shoe. But it's not the most expensive game-worn Air Jordan to ever be sold. No, that distinction goes to the Air Jordan 12 flu game. Or, well, it would be if not for a pair of 13s that MJ wore in the 1998 finals. Look, the point we're trying to make would be a lot more impactful if the blue games were at the top spot, but alas, let's move on with the video. So, the Air Jordan 12 flu game. It's coming back. After an early release during NBA All-Star Weekend, the wider drop will be taking place this weekend on March 1st for 210. This is the fourth retro of the black and red 12s, and the first time since 2016. For those of you who are longtime fans of the channel, you'll know that I did an unboxing of the 2016 retro. Let's start by opening up the box here, just to give you guys a look at the shoes. So yes, this is the Air Jordan 12 flu game. Now, flu game. Let's talk about that. No, let's not talk about that 2016, Jacques. I'll take it from here. How do I look so much younger now than I did almost a decade? Anyway, this retro of the Air Jordan 12 flu game is as good as any other. I'm not a stickler for the crazy details. If the heel is shaped a little bit differently, or if the toe box goes a little bit differently, or if it's shaped a little bit different, if it looks pretty similar to the original pair, I'm pretty happy. Unless they do something egregious, I don't really mind. For those that are unfamiliar with the 12, they were designed by Tinker Hatfield, and MJ wore these, I believe there were 5 different colorways when they originally released. This pair looks absolutely great. The reptile or lizard skin rand on the medial side and on the lateral side looks just as good as it ever has. The tumbled leather on the upper looks just as good as it ever have. The shape feels pretty much the same. There are a few changes. The font looks a little bit different. The joke that's always running is that the Jordan man, the jump man here on the tongue is always a little bit different. The 23 looks good. They got the outsole right, where it has the translucent instead of like the matte coloring. It's a little more translucent with the red. You have the carbon fiber in there, the EVA foam, the full length zoom. All the things that you expect with the Air Jordan 12 are here with this model. Jordan Brand got it pretty much right. Is it an exact replica of the original? No, but I don't think that's really the intent. The more we learn about the way Jordan Brand does things, the more we understand that getting it exactly the same may not necessarily be part of the business plan. And one thing that's definitely different about these, outside of the little small things here and there, are these eyelets at the top. These are usually made out of metal. Looks like in this time they're made out of plastic, and they're painted a matte color instead of like the little shiny glossy version that you had before. But I feel like if you are a fan of this model, you'll be pretty happy with these. Now, why are they called the Flu Game 12s? Well, besides sneakerhead culture's desire to give every cool sneaker a nickname, the backstory of these J's are unlike any other in history. See, during the 1997 NBA Finals, the series was tied at 2 games apiece. It was your typical knockdown, drag-out fight of a championship series that was emblematic of 90s basketball. Like, take a look at these box scores for the first 4 games. 84-82 Bulls, 97-85 Bulls, 104-93 Jazz, 78-73 Jazz. If you've ever watched this era of the NBA, you're probably looking at those scores and wondering if they only played 3 quarters back in the days. But man, to those of us who were outside during that time, it was everything to us. The internet was barely a thing. Social media thankfully wasn't around. And if you didn't have a VCR to record it or ESPN to watch the highlights later, you might only ever see this game one time. Keep that point in mind for later. So when you turned on NBC to watch the game, you might have been shocked to hear Marv Albert declare that Michael Jordan was suffering from flu-like symptoms. As a young MJ fan, it was jarring to hear. Was he okay? How did he get sick so fast? Is he gonna play? Like, prior to that, MJ always looked invincible. Yes, he had his moments of vulnerability off the court, but on the court, he was the coolest ever. Nothing fazed him except the flu, apparently. Of course, you know what happens next. Despite looking like death, no, not the Aubrey Plaza one, Michael would post a stat line of 38 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 1 block, and be 1 victory away from winning a 5th championship. The enduring images of that game was not a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Apologies for that bad Marv impression. No, it was MJ head down, hands tugging on his shorts, looking like he was a John Stockton or Karl Malone cheap shot away from keeling over. The other was him falling into Scottie Pippen's arms as they headed to the bench with a W in hand. And each of those pictures and clips prominently featured those black and red 12s. And that's the story of why this would be called the Flu Game 12s. And nothing else happened after that. The end. Just kidding. That wasn't the end. First, let's talk about the flu game itself. Was it actually a flu game? There's been much speculation as to what actually took place and what led to MJ having flu-like symptoms. There's been rumors and speculation about how MJ got sick. Was it actually the flu? Was it a trip to Vegas that went really, really, really well? Was he just playing mind games with the Jazz? Turns out it was something a little more sinister, allegedly. The other rumor that has been floating around for years is that MJ got food poisoning. We even talked about it in the 2016 unboxing video.
So this is how the story goes. So Jordan and a couple of guys were in his room. It was after 9 o'clock. They were in Utah. Utah had already beat them the past 2 games, so the series was tied 2-2 in the NBA Finals, and they decided to order some food. Food service wasn't open past 9 p.m., and it was past 9 when they ordered food, so they ordered pizza. Now, here's the tricky part. According to Tim, when the pizza came, 5 guys delivered the pizza, and of all the guys in the room, no one ate the pizza but Michael Jordan. Everyone goes back to their room. God, these are really nice. Pause the story, look right here. These are really nice. The leather on these is really nice. Nice tumble leather upper. Very well done, very well done. Okay, so back to the story. So now Jordan is the only one that eats the pizza. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and he calls up Tim because he's basically balled up into the fetal position, sick from eating the pizza, from what we believe. So believe he ate pizza that the 5 guys that were at Utah brought to him. Now, I'm not saying that the people that brought the pizza poisoned him or gave him food poisoning intentionally, but that's kind of how the story sounds.
All of this was eventually confirmed during the Last Dance documentary. And then there are the actual flu game Air Jordan 12s. They're not in the Basketball Hall of Fame, nor are they in MJ's possession. MJ got rid of the shoes faster than he got rid of the effects of the food poisoning, handing them off to a then Utah ball boy. They would go up for auction in 2013, selling for over $100,000. Fast forward to 2023, and the flu game 12s would pop up at auction again, selling for $1.38 million. According to Ken Golden, founder of the company that held the auction, the flu game shoes are the most important game-used Jordan shoes to hit the market, period. Well, I mean, duh, of course he's gonna say that. He's hosting the auction. If the Space Jam game against the Monstars actually happened, Ken would probably downplay the 11s MJ wore that day if Sotheby's held it. But here's the thing. I actually agree with Ken to a certain degree. The black and red Air Jordan 12s that Michael Jordan wore are among the most important and historically significant sneakers in MJ's entire repertoire. I mean, there's no denying the Air Jordan's importance to MJ becoming the global star that he became. There are only a handful of Air Jordans that are symbiotically tied to an MJ moment as those black and red 12s. What I mean by that is when you see these sneakers, everybody thinks of the exact same moment. It's the white cement 3s when he won the 1988 dunk contest, the black and red 4s when he hit the shot, the Chicago 10s when he went for the double nickel in the 4-5, the Olympic 7s when he suited up for the Dream Team, the black and red 11s when he was on the floor remembering his late father when the Bulls won in 1996, the mysterious New Jays he wore in the 1998 finals that would go on to be known as the Last Shot 14s. No disrespect to the white cement 4s or infrared 6s or even Concord 11s. They are just as iconic as any of the J's I mentioned previously, but they don't have the one specific MJ moment that automatically comes to mind when you see them. I would argue that the Flu Game 12s surpass all of them because of that moment. The setting, the performance, and the what if. What I mean by that is, what if Jordan the bed, both literally and, figuratively? Say Jordan has an average game and the Bulls lose. That puts Utah up 3-2 with all of the momentum in their favor. Imagine a world where the Bulls lose that series. Maybe management breaks up the Bulls a year early. Maybe MJ retires with only 4 rings and a finals loss on his ledger. I imagine plenty of people would still consider him the greatest of all time, but the Kobe fans and the LeBron fans would have something to say. And that's why the Flu Game and the Flu Game 12s are so critical to Jordan's legacy. Okay, now that we've done all that, Did I sell you on the Flu Game 12s again? Because that's what we're doing here. We're telling the same story again 9 years after we already told the same story that we did in 2009 and in 2003. Okay, to be fair, 2009 was a little different because of the changes to the upper and the emojis on the sign panel. Look, as divisive as those were during that time, if the 2025 Flu Game 12 Retro was reimagined, I bet the excitement for them would be a little higher. But back to my point. We're just telling the same story again. Now, it's important that the younger generation hears and sees it so they have context as to why these Flu Game 12s are a big deal. But I kind of get the feeling that the casual sneaker audience are either tired of these stories or sadly don't care for the stories. And maybe the reason for that is that they've either heard it all before and or just waiting for a new story to intrigue them. Storytelling is a funny thing when it relates to sneakers in 2025. In the 2010s, storytelling was absolutely necessary to sell a hype sneaker. If it was the Jordan Retro, it needed to be tied to a moment in Jordan's career. I mean, to hell with career. We're talking about his entire life. Like, there are Jordan Retros out there based on jackets he's worn, cars he's driven, bubblegum he's chewed, and backboards he's shattered. Right now, there are perfectly good-looking Air Jordan 3s available now based on the lucky North Carolina practice shorts that MJ wore under his Bulls shorts early in his career. In 2013, these are selling out and reselling for triple their retail price. Today, they're widely available on Nike.com and at certain retail stores. Is part of the malaise that people have for Jordan Brand is because the stories are no longer hitting? I wouldn't say it's the biggest reason, but it would be foolish to say that it doesn't have a role in people no longer enjoying sneakers like they once did. Part of it is the oversaturation of the stories behind the sneakers. Not that there's anything wrong with giving background and inspiration to a sneaker and how it transforms ideas to reality, but when everything has a story, it almost feels like homework trying to catch up. It's like watching the new Captain America movie. If you've forgotten what happened at the end of Avengers Endgame, you might be wondering why Sam Wilson has the shield. And if you didn't watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus that debuted during the pandemic, the costume change might be a little jarring. It doesn't mean that Sam isn't deserving of the Captain America title. He absolutely is and should definitely be a leading character in the next Avengers movie. But can you see the amount of homework that a viewer has to undertake to make it all make sense? And sometimes, sneakerheads, they don't care about the sense. They just want the shoes. And that's why they turn to Vomeros or Chucks or Hoka Cliftons and New Balance 992s. Stories are just busy work to people nowadays. To me, are you being able to tell the difference between a Joe Freshgoods collab with New Balance and a J-Tips project with Saucony is critical. To the outside world, aka the audience Nike needs to sell these retros to, it's just a pair of black and red 12s that they've seen basically all over the internet and on social media and on GOAT or eBay or StockX or SneakerCon. If they really wanted it, they could have gotten it sometime in the past 9 years, really. Look, remember when you were in the car and your parents would play music from their generation? At first, it's cool because you're young and impressionable. It makes mom and dad happy. It makes you happy. But as you grow, two things happen. You either continue loving the same music your parents enjoyed and it becomes a part of your musical taste profile, or you reject it with every fiber of your being because you've been hearing it all your life. Sneakers, they're the same way. In this case, Nike and the old heads are your parents. All they've done is tell you on social media why these sneakers matter. You bought it in 2016, both figuratively and literally. And now, 9 years later, it's the same story. All around the world, the same song. I guess we'll see what happens next. If the Flu games sell out and resale is popping, the story still resonates. If not, maybe it's time to rethink things over at the Jumpman. All right, as always, guys, I appreciate you. Let me know what you think of these longer storytelling type unboxing and review videos. I'm Jacques Slade. As always, I appreciate you. Make sure you like, favorite, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon. Peace.